Hello everybody, PTPOP here. On a gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous Tuesday morning, I am headed out on the road. Here, I gotta do this before I continue here. Go.
Starting route to 3583 Austin Road. Proceed to Westwood Drive, then take the first right.
I'm heading out to see a high school buddy of mine. I've seen him every now and then. He and I used to live in the Southwest. He lived in Texas, and I lived in Arizona. We found each other
at the next lights, turn left.
On Facebook and all that stuff over the years. And then he moved back to Ohio, and then I moved back. I don't remember in what sequence that happened. I think we both kind of moved back at the same time. I think he moved back before I did, so I'm heading out on the road to see him. My friend Randy. Randy and I were at the end of the alphabet in our class, and so me and Randy and a guy named Steve and Milton and a few other people would hang out before first period in high school.
Turn left onto Royalton Road.
Because we were all, one of the reasons was because we were all, our lockers were all in the same area. And we'd all sit there and bullshit for like, 20 minutes before the bell rang. And Randy's a cool guy, and I'm going to see him, and I can't believe it's been, we've been out of school, the two of us have been out of school now for 41 years, because our 40th anniversary would have been last June. And I'm looking forward to seeing him again. We're gonna have lunch together. And it's weird when you run into people
in
that
2.5 miles, keep right to merge onto I-71 North towards
that
Cleveland.
you knew growing up. You knew growing up. I knew growing up. You knew growing up. I only knew Randy from I think he went to a different elementary school than I did. I went to several different ones, but he went to one, and I don't think I went to his. So I didn't meet him probably until 6th grade in middle school. So I've known him off and on for a long time. And it's interesting when you start to run into people from your childhood, and you start to reminisce, and you start to talk about stuff. In your mind, you're transported back to those times. And it's weird. It's almost as if you're there. You still feel like as you get older, you still feel like you're 18. You still feel like you're 10, even though you're not. And it's the weirdest thing, because there's another guy named John who I live in these apartments with. John and I keep in touch on Facebook, and I've known him since 3rd grade. And he and I used to go fossil hunting in this big empty field behind the apartments we lived in. The apartments were called the Maple Manor Apartments. They're now called, I think, the Maple Ridges or something. And we'd all play baseball in the field in front of the apartments. We'd all play football, and we rode our bikes everywhere, and it was so much fun. We all came from pretty dysfunctional families. I don't know about John, but I know a lot of the guys I've talked to since then, we all came from, broken homes, and, like, some of the kids' mothers were the only source of income. Dad was gone. Dad had hit the bricks, or was a drunk like my dad was, and things like that. But we all found a way to cope, and we found a way to live our lives and enjoy ourselves on the playground, so to speak. And it was such a good time. And despite a lot of bad things in all of our homes, we all had decent childhoods. We kind of hung out with each other and made it, even though we didn't know that's what we were doing. We had a good time. And you run into these people over the years, and you realize that you're both yearning for your youth again. You're both yearning for being 10 years old, 9 years old, riding around on your banana seat, huffy bicycle around the apartment complex, jumping off ramps, you can still see it in your mind as if it was yesterday. The good, the warm feelings of waking up on a Saturday morning. Or I'll never forget waking up in these apartments in Maple Manor on Saturday morning on the rare occasion my mother would cook breakfast. The smell of bacon and eggs coming from the kitchen just down the hall from my bedroom, and eating breakfast and running out the door to go swimming in the pool in these apartments, which has now been paved over, filled in and paved over and turned into a parking lot. And the field that we once hunted for fossils in now has a giant supersized Walmart in it. So the small town we were in has changed, and we've all changed, and you get old. And when you're a kid, you don't think about getting old. You don't want to think about it. You see your grandparents, you see your aunts and uncles that are elderly. I had elderly aunts and uncles. You know, my parents were born in the 1920s. My siblings are between 8 to 15 years older than me, so I've always been around older people. But my grandparents were always elderly. They always had gray hair. They always, you know, I only met one grandparent. I met my dad's dad. And as you get older and you start hanging around with your buddies, you start making fun of old people, you know. You start mocking them and making fun of them. And I still make fun of them here on this channel. I call them cotton tops and all that stuff, even though, you know, I'm getting up there in years. And I think one of the reasons you make fun of old people is you don't want to even think about, you want to make fun of what is eventually going to happen to you if you live long enough, and I don't think most people want to think about that. And I guess what made me think about getting older is I went in to get my hair cut. As you can see, I don't have any hair in my head. I got my hair buzzed off. I went into the barber shop yesterday. I went into a new barber. And the barber I had was a woman. It was in a barber shop, but it was actually a female barber, which was great. She was great. She was 80 years old. And we were talking about getting older and how hard it is, and she could find a job at 80, but this guy hired her, and she was great. And as I was going to pay her, I said, like, how much do I owe you? And she goes, well, I'll give you the senior discount. I'm like, well, I'm only 59. Is that okay? And she's like, well, you're just 1 year off. I'm still going to give you the senior discount, because it turns out this woman was a patient of my uncle and my cousin. My uncle and cousins are dentists, and I guess she was one of their patients. And my uncle came up with a conversation.
Keep right to merge onto I-71 North towards Cleveland.
I-71 North towards Cleveland, yes, thank you. And I'm like, senior discount, and it just kind of hit me. It was like a punch in the gut. I'm like, oh shit, I'm old. I'm getting old. You know? The senior discount, I don't have the golden Buckeye card or anything. There's a thing here they have in Ohio called the Buckeye card, which shows, I guess, it's you're a senior citizen. You can use it to get discounts off your ham and eggs at the diner. And I was like, wow, I'm I'm fortunate enough to live. I'm only 59. In a couple of months I'll be 60. I've got a brother that will turn 75 this December. My sister will be 73. And my other brother is going to be 68, I think. So we're all getting up there, and I guess if you live long enough, you become those people that you made fun of as a kid. And the weird thing about it is you still feel like you're 18. You still feel like a young buck until you go work in the yard. And you're picking yourself up off the bed the next day, like everything hurts. And you know, I guess the weird thing is about getting old is that, you know, for myself, I've always taken pretty good care of myself. I've always been somewhat athletic. I've always worked out in some way, shape, or form or another. I've never smoked. I've never done drugs. I used to drink pretty heavy, but I haven't done that in a long time. You know, I didn't really party with all the partiers. I hung out with them, but I didn't partake in what they were doing. Whether you believe it or not, that's fine. It doesn't matter to me. I know the truth of my life. And you still get sick. That's the weird thing. You still feel.
Stay in the middle 2 lanes.
You still feel young at heart. But it doesn't matter. I'm finding out it doesn't matter how well you treat your body. Something still creeps in and gets you. And it's really kind of perplexing, you know. I've got health issues, as I've mentioned. I've got problems with my prostate. I don't have cancer, thank God. But I've got to get an operation to widen the canal on my man gland so I can pee. Because I'm finding out I had to go through like 5 urologists till I finally found a urologist that told me like it was. He said, look, if you don't get this fixed, a lot of bad things could happen. Your kidneys could shut down. You could be on dialysis. You could die. You could die from heart failure because of
the right two lanes
a lot of different factors in the chemistry, in your blood, and your high blood pressure. Like my blood pressure has been high for about 5 years, which is about the time I started having problems with my man gland. But the point being is that regardless of what happens, regardless of how well you treat your body, something's going to creep in and jump on you and get you. And I'm finding that the out there because my phone went to sleep for some reason. God only knows why. I'm back in the freeway here in the fine land of Cleveland, Ohio. And it's all about your mindset. Like when I was a kid, I had this dog named Coco, and we got the dog, I think when I was in 5th grade. We got her in 5th grade. She was just a pup. She was like 4 months old. A beautiful Springer Spaniel, Labrador Retriever mix. She was all chocolate brown, except for a little bit of white on her chest, and a little white dot on her right ear. And, you know, one day she just stopped playing, and I'm like, okay, she just stopped playing. I didn't think of her as getting old. I never thought of her as old, and then one day she just got sick and died. You know, we had to put her down. Mom put her down. And it never occurred to me that she was old. She just was my dog Coco, and I remember I went away to college for 4 years, and I come home, you know, for summer and winter breaks every year, and she was still just my dog. But then just recently I found a picture of her from like 1990 or something, right before she died. I think she died 90, almost 16 or something. And she looked so old, and she had gray, you know, she had a white face, and she, you know, she had changed quite a bit. She looked long in the tooth. She'd been around the block a few times, and I didn't see her like that when when I was a kid. But when you're a kid, you're not thinking about stuff like that. You're not focused on getting old. You put it as far out of your mind as you possibly can. And now that I'm getting there, nothing you can do about it. If you live long enough, you're going to get old. And you're going to get sick. Not everybody gets sick, but most of us do. It's too bad this guy in the Audi behind me doesn't get sick. Maybe he gets sick and croaks right here behind me. He loves my bumper. It's like I'm back in Phoenix. There you go, buddy. There you go. Your red Audi. Oh, and he's texting at the same time. I love it. I love it. Only thing I can say about the man is he's got a bald head like me. So you get old, and people pass away, and people get sick. Like, I remember my mom, I never looked at my mom as being old. She's been through a lot in her life. And by the time she died, you know, she had aged quite a bit, but I didn't look at it that way. She was just my mom. I never thought of my mom dying. It never occurred to me, even though she had been sick for about 6 years with emphysema, COPD in it, which culminated in cancer. I never ever once woke up and said, is this the day she's going to kick the bucket? You know, it never even crossed my mind once that she was going to die. I figured she just lived forever on this oxygen, that she was always on the oxygen. And then one day, you know, we went to bed the night before, and her bedroom was across the hall from mine. In this tiny house we had a little 900 square foot house. It suited us fine. I was 26 and she was 64, and I'm laying in bed and I hear her call out, and she goes, "It's happening, this is it, call the ambulance." I'm like, what the fuck? And I like jump on a bed, and I'm like, she's in bed struggling to breathe, and it was horrible. And I called the ambulance, and they came, they took her away. Trask Ambulance Company. And as the years, that was 33 years ago, as the years have gone by, and I think about what she yelled out, it's happening, this is it. She had been waiting. For the 6 years she had been sick, she must have been waiting, and the doctor must have told her what to expect when things were going to get bad. And she knew it. She knew she was dying. She had to have been sitting there in that little house with me every day thinking about, this is the end. You know, she knew it. She knew her days were numbered. And I remember her sitting with me at the breakfast table. Just, she didn't ever complain. She never complained about her situation. She never complained about her sickness. A few times she would. But one time she said, oh my God, Peter, look at me. I look terrible. I look awful. Look how old I am. And I'm like, oh, no, you look great. You know, she just looked like mom to me at the time. Now I see pictures of her and I'm like, oh, I see it now. She had been dragged over the rocks in her life, and I think it just caught up with her. And it just, all these cars are bunched up here. I hate this. This is just like driving in Phoenix. Everyone's driving like it's the Indianapolis 500. Gotta keep my head in a swivel. And she died. You know, she died. It took a few weeks for her to pass in the hospital. I think it was a few weeks. It's been too long to remember. But she knew. She looked in the mirror. I look in the mirror now and I see the wrinkles under my eyes. I see the little turkey neck that's coming here. Just, my dad had this turkey neck when he was in his 40s. And I think smoking really aged both of them. Well, drinking too. Drinking and smoking will really destroy your body. And it'll really age you fast. And the nice thing that the barber said to me the other day
Stay
was,
in the left 2 lanes.
she goes, well, you look young. I'd never guess you were anywhere near 60, and I've heard that from people. And I think it just comes down to, you know, you've got to maintain a good outlook on life and give yourself something to look forward to. And that's how it's gotten me through most of life. Like going to see my friend Randy. You know, we've seen each other once since he moved back. We got together a couple years ago for lunch in our hometown where we grew up, and it was a nice meeting. And I'm looking forward to seeing him today. He's working, so you know I don't know how much time he's got. And the whole thing is odd though, getting old, because and like I said, in your mind, you think, wow, I'm gonna go shoot some baskets today. And I haven't shot baskets in a couple of years. But I went to the batting cages last summer, and I used to be able to, you know, I think the batting cages go up to like 70 miles an hour at the one I go to. And I couldn't even hit the ones going 50. I was like, fuck. It's like, my eyes are really bad now. I have to, my depth perception is bad when I have this patch on. But it was just like, kind of very eye-opening and I'm finding out now, if you don't work out like every day, like I'll go a couple weeks and not go swimming and not lift weights, and then I go back to the gym to lift, and it's like the next day I hurt. Like the other day I went in and I lifted, and everything hurts. And it's just part of getting older. And to get through it all, I know I sound bitter and everything on here, but I give myself things to look forward to, things to do. You got to keep yourself busy. Keep things out of your mind. If you let things creep in that really bug you, it'll drive you crazy. And there's a good chance this will cut off because it's in the sun. The phone's in the sun, and you know, we can put a man on the moon in 1969 where the temperatures fluctuated like almost 500 degrees between night and day, and the guys can walk around on the surface of the moon and not fry or freeze to death. But we can't make an iPhone that doesn't overheat in the direct sunlight. Yet I see guys come in the sauna. Why guys come in the sauna with their iPhone, I have no idea. But guys come in the sauna with their iPhone. I think it's really ridiculous. But I don't want somebody in there with their phone. But you give yourself things to think about. You sit there and think about, well, I'm sick, or my back hurts, or whatever. It's going to make you older. I try to stay young by working with other artists and making documentaries and keeping up with my YouTube channel for the little I do it now, and doing painting and writing songs. I'm working with an amazing artist. I did an interview with her here on my channel. Her name's Fatima Taylor. She's an amazingly talented painter. She was a graduate student at Ohio University. She just got accepted into the PhD program at Ohio University. She's brilliant and just beautiful and talented. And I'm going to be working on a mini documentary with her to talk about her paintings and her current series of paintings and the meaning behind them. And then she and I are hopefully going to work on a project together, totally different project. She came up with the idea. It's just a fascinating idea, which I'm not going to talk about until we actually get it nailed down and get it more solidified, or all that stuff. And then there's another artist I've met, quote, met, unquote. She lives in Hollywood, or lives in Los Angeles. Her name is Jean Marie Spicuzza, and she is an amazing talent, just an amazing talent. She's a musician, a writer, a poet, a director, a filmmaker, producer. I'm watching one of her films right now called, I think it's called, forgive me, Gene, if you're watching, Hard Rain. I think it's called Rain. I'm really bad with titles, Gene, if you're watching. It's well shot, it's well thought out. I haven't gotten through the whole film yet, but she's an amazing person, and we're going to be doing a podcast where I'm going to interview her. And I don't know the likelihood of me doing a documentary about her life, but I bet you, she's just got so much passion. She has all of this energy and passion. It is so, it's intoxicating. It's fascinating to hear how much passion and love she has for her craft and for her life and for her art. And she could talk. We could have like a 2-3 hour podcast, if that little. We could go on forever, and I could listen to her talk because she really loves what she's doing, and I think it's fascinating. So I'm going to have that going on, and it's things like that that keep me going. And a lot of the things I'm finding out about being an artist as an older person is that I'm grateful I didn't become an artist as a younger person, because the younger person, when I was going to be an artist in my 18 to 22, when I was in school studying art, I didn't have any
Hazard
idea.
reported ahead on I-71 north in half a mile. You're still on the fastest route.
Thank you very much, young lady. Bring me a drink, won't you? Is that when you're young, you have, or at least I did, this romanticized idea of what art was, what being an artist was. And I think if I had really stuck with it back then, I don't think I would have stayed with it. Because I didn't really... You don't know anything when you're a kid. You don't know anything when you're 18 to 22. You don't know your ass from a hole in the ground. The human brain doesn't fully develop to the age of 26 or 27. So, I think if I had become an artist earlier, I wouldn't have appreciated art the way I do now. I see it differently now. Art isn't a romantic thing. Art can be, but it's a business. It can be a business if you want to make a living at it. But to truly appreciate and understand art, it takes some life experience to really look at somebody's work and go, oh, I see that now. But when you're a kid, you've got some professor, like I had this professor in a lecture hall at Ohio University in the art building at Siegfried, and he would stand at the front of the classroom. It was a small lecture hall that seated about 150 kids. And he would stand there in a tan corduroy jacket with a sweater vest and a plaid shirt and a bow tie. And he was an older gentleman, probably in his 60s. And he talked like this. Today we're going to discuss the works of Mondrian. And he would have a slide behind him. This is the slide projectors that were showing works of art on the wall, and we had a book.
Stay in the left 2 lanes.
And he was very proper. And he talked like this, and talked about the evolution of Picasso from a classically trained artist to the Cubists. Yeah, so, and you sit there like, oh, come on, dude. You know, like, you're 20 years old, you're looking at the girl's tits in the row next to you. You don't care what he's got to say. And yeah, I was a sexist kid. And, you know, all of us guys, every guy you know is thinking about what's between his legs and where he can stick it. And that's the truth. And if you think your dad wasn't like that, or your priest isn't like that, or your minister, or your accountant, or your dentist, you're dead wrong. Get out of the fantasy world. All of us guys are looking where we can put our ship, whose port we can park our ship in, to put it politely. But anyway, I didn't have an appreciation for what he was talking about until years later, when I started to look at these famous artists, especially Edward Hopper. I don't think he covered Hopper, because I didn't discover Hopper's work until much later in life. But another thing is that I discovered photography as I got older. I discovered photography in my 40s. I'd always been intrigued by it, but once I started to actually learn to operate a camera, it just became a whole new world to me. It was like, wow, it was like this whole new language that I completely understood. It was like music with photographs. I don't know why everything is so bunched up at 11:45 in the morning. I just don't understand this, traffic-wise. Photography gave me a new perspective on art in general and composition. I learned so much about composition just by looking through the lens of a camera than any teacher could have ever taught me in a classroom about composition. And now that I've learned photography, I see paintings and sculpture and everything in a different way, completely different way. I understand what the teacher, even though I always say I didn't learn anything in college about art, but I guess I did. I learned some things by this one little history class I had on art history. You start to see the symbolism, you start to see the use of colors, the composition, the color theory that they pounded into your head. It starts to come out, how they created depth in their paintings, how they created meaning in their paintings. But you also start to see the bullshit of the people who analyze the paintings. Like the college professor that said that the Andy Warhol piece of Campbell's Soup was a highly significant piece. It spoke of the industrialization of art, or whatever it was. I don't remember what he said. But you start to see some of the things as bullshit, because if you walk in the Cleveland Museum of Art, they recently had a lot of Van Gogh's work in the Cleveland Museum of Art, probably within the last 10 years. And there's all these lofty descriptions of what Van Gogh was trying to say in this piece. Like, come on, you don't know what the man was trying to say in this piece. You have no idea. It looks to me like Van Gogh had nothing else to paint while he was in the nut house. And so he took, after he cut off his ear, he painted a picture of himself with a bandage on his head. And the professors will say, in this piece, Van Gogh was trying to describe his intimate angst about losing his ear to a hooker. I don't know if that's what it said, but there are all these, the little written descriptions on the wall below the piece hanging on the wall. These ridiculous descriptions. But you find that a lot of people in the art world, the pompous art world, it's all that in a bag of chips. They have all these interpretations of the man or the woman's artwork, and it's kind of amusing when you read this bullshit. I don't know if the classic, the big named artists, Van Gogh, Monet, Manet, Cezanne, all these people, if they ever documented. Did Edward Hopper, I know he was, more modern, but I've seen interviews with him, and I think his paintings are just paintings. But everyone's talking about how his paintings describe the loneliness of life. Maybe he just didn't want to paint a lot of people in his pictures, and he just wanted to create a nice, balanced, clean painting. but everyone's put this thing on it, like his paintings are about desperation and loneliness and come on. But as you get older, you start to see through the bullshit. You start to see the meaning of work. But as far as bullshit goes, not just with art, but with everything in life, you start to see through the bullshit. You start to see through how things are really a lot of BS. And that's something I've seen. And that's why it's so hard for me to go back to work, because as a 60-year-old man, I'm rounding up a couple months, as a 60-year-old man, you start to see the futility of work and how much of your life was wasted sitting at a desk somewhere while some asshole treated you like crap for 8 hours to 10 hours a day. And you fell off of the boulder up there. Dig it up from the sea. Something's gonna get you, man. I don't know if this thing is back on or not. I think it's back on. My phone overheated, guys. I don't know what to do here. Probably just gonna log off because I can't escape the sunshine here. The sun is everywhere. In usually cloudy Ohio, it's a rather sunshiny day. A rather sunshiny day here in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm driving through the east side of Cleveland now on Route 90 eastbound through the industrial parts, what used to be industrial parts of Cleveland. How everyone's stopping here. Oh, man. I don't know what everybody's doing today. Everyone's out on the road. Usually you go through these parts and there's nobody in the freeway. And that day, everybody's out. I've been alive forever, right from the very first song. Yes, hey everybody. I write the songs that make the young girls cry. So I'll be next to an Amazon car here, an Amazon driver. So I don't know. I can't really log off right now because I'm on a curve, and it ain't too smart to be doing this with it in my hand. And I can't put it back where it was because the sun will cook it. So that's my lecture, I guess, on being old. But as you get older, there's some plus sides to it too. You can kind of relax a little bit because you can see all the bullshit. You see through the bullshit. You can see through friends' bullshit. You see through, the business bullshit. You see through the politics. You realize, at least I've realized, that it doesn't matter what Trump does. It doesn't matter what the military does, or if a house explodes in San Diego and I'm in Cleveland. Like, why are they even showing this to us on the news? It's bullshit. Just getting us all upset about somebody that was killed in a blast, or, like this guy that took a flamethrower to a bunch of Jewish people over in Colorado. Sorry that happened, but there's not a damn thing I can do about it, and I'm not going to sit here and be upset about it. And if I got upset about every darn thing that the news wanted me to be upset about, I would have been in an early grave in my 30s. Crap, 9/11 almost put me in the grave. That was so upsetting to everybody in this country and around the world. And I don't believe the official story of that either. That's a whole lot of bullshit. That's a whole lot of bullshit, 9/11 was. Whole lot of bullshit from our fine country that rides around on a white stallion, saving the world from oppression and terrorism. Dun, da, da, here comes America. Dun, da, da.
In 2 miles, keep right towards Erie,
All right.
Pennsylvania.
I gotta log off here, guys. I'm almost, I gotta hit this interchange, and I had to take my phone down because it's cooking up. But have a good day. If you're old, hang in there. If you're young, enjoy your youth. Bye.